Hello, I'm Dr. Miguel Cruz at Cruz Life Center in North Carolina, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about shoulders. So I've got an example of a shoulder joint here, which is consisting of the arm, which is called the humerus. That's the long bone coming out of the shoulder right there. And then you have the clavicle right here, also known as the collarbone commonly. And then you've got what's called the scapula back here, which is that wing bone that sticks out in the very back. Now, for our shoulders to function properly, all those bones play a role in shoulder movement. There's more to it than that too, because your neck also plays a role in that, but we're not going to get into that at the moment. So when I bring my arm up, for example, there's three things that are happening. Number one, within this joint right here, where the humerus is attached to the scapula, it's a socket joint. So as the arm goes up, that is rolling downward, okay? Next thing is the clavicle. When the arm goes up, because of all the other attachments, muscles, and ligaments that we have, the clavicle, there's movement going on in that clavicle. That clavicle rises up a little bit as well, okay? And lastly is the scapula, this bone here. As the arm is going up, the scapula is rotating on our back. There's a rotation that's going on right there. So if all three of those aren't happening at the same time, we're going to have a problem. Either there's going to be some arthritis showing up over the years, there might be some inflammation going on currently, and bone spurs can develop over a period of time, so it just gets ugly right there. What the key is keeping good mobility in the shoulder. Now, here's what happens with most of my patients. They're coming in here and usually they've been diagnosed with a frozen shoulder or bursitis or some sort of arthritis in their shoulders. And usually they're restricted. They can't move it very far. You maybe barely get it to 90 degrees. A lot of people can't even get it up to 90 degrees. So usually from falls that they've had or just overuse, who knows, lots of different reasons that we develop problems right there. Once it gets locked up, there's scar tissue that starts forming, and then next thing you know, you got less and less movement going on in that shoulder. So what we do is a couple things. One, we can get low-level laser on there to get rid of the inflammation. If there's a lot of pain involved, there's usually inflammation, the laser will get rid of the inflammation. If there is just restriction involved, then we need to get some movement back in there. And I'm going to demonstrate how we can do that very easily and painlessly. Okay, now I'm going to demonstrate an instrument that we use. This is called the ArthroStim. It has a vibrating movement back and forth. Feels very good. It's painless. And it stimulates mobility into the joints. So in the case of the shoulder, I'm going to turn my camera right there facing my shoulder joint here. So we would take the ArthroStim, place it right around the clavicle in this manner, and just give it a few here on myself. Show you what that kind of looks like. Pretty gentle, works very good. And then in this joint right here, right there, we would just basically give it a few taps that way on myself. If I can demonstrate, a little harder to do on myself, so you can see. Downward. Does a great job of breaking up those fixations, any scar tissue that's in there. And then on the scapula, I won't be able to demonstrate this one on myself, but you can get a good view of it here. We just basically, from the top, pushing down on there. And often, surprisingly, people will come in here with a diagnosed frozen shoulder. Oftentimes they've had it for years, and just after the first time I do that procedure on them, they're amazed at, wow, I can move my shoulder again. So the key is getting it to stay that way. So it may not last the first time. We got to do that a few times in many cases. And then sometimes we got to include the laser to get that swelling out of there to make sure it heals up properly, so you don't just have more scar tissue forming in there as it continues to heal. Now, lastly, once we get that shoulder mobility back, we got the inflammation down and the pain's gone, the next step is to show you, the patient, how to keep the problem from coming back. And usually that involves some exercising, some simple stretches that needs to be done, and possibly some supplements that'll be helpful in making sure the body has everything it needs to heal properly. So if you look elsewhere on my website, I've got some very specific videos for the shoulder stretching and exercises. So that's it for now. Thank you very, very much.